I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, April the 30th, where the board stabilizes here middle of the week, and on Wednesday your board was pretty much unchanged on cattle futures there, we didn't see a whole lot of movement in it. We haven't seen any limit up or down moves for several sessions now, which makes you feel kind of good. But your April live cattle contract here at maturity did not converge with your cash prices, and that's what the futures market is supposed to do, give you some indication of what the market might be out front, and whenever it comes to fruit, it's supposed to converge, but didn't. We're running a $10 to $15 basis here at the end of the month, and so your board did not work, although your hedged cattle feeders are kind of enjoying that big basis like they normally do, and that has been a big part of how we've lost all of this market position here, and like I've said several times, your cattle feeders really don't care what your market is. If they can buy hedged cattle, put yardage and feed into them, and come out there and enjoy a nice basis to help them get along, they're pretty good with things. But your backgrounders and your cow-calf operation are struggling. We've got these cattle below the cost of production now, and they're the ones that are producing them, and they cannot go on like this. But if you didn't know any better and you weren't looking at the price levels, you would have thought this was a pretty neutral kind of a Wednesday. If you didn't notice your box beef cutout values, which skyrocketed once again here to just obscene levels, and it's getting almost laughable and ridiculous how much these packers are gouging these retailers, and they are trying to save a little face. They're not sinking your cash fat cattle market as low as they could, but you know, when you're making $1,600 a head, you're more than doubling your money whenever you buy a fat steer. We can't feel too much sorry for them. But let's look at the board on Wednesday. Your April live cattle futures up 7 cents at 85.60 here at the end of the month. June live cattle down 42 cents at 84.27. You go out front from there, and they were kind of mixed from down a quarter to up 22 cents, but not much going on at all. On your feeder cattle pits, April feeder cattle down 7 cents at 119.55. May up a nickel at 118.55. You go on out front from there, and your feeders were also mixed on the out fronts from down 55 to up 52, but not a whole lot going on out there. We've had some more interest here in what your packers are doing to the industry. They're taking it to its knees. We've had another call from some senators for an antitrust investigation against the packers. We'll see how much of that works. You know, we had earlier in the week President Trump call for your plant workers to go back to work, calling in an old wartime law from back in the Korean War and trying to get these workers back to work. We don't know how successful that's going to be. The only thing is, legally it might limit your unions from playing too much hardball and coaxing those people not to come back to work, and they could threaten them with taking some of their benefits away. But you know, the fact of it is, if people are too scared to go to work or too lazy, it's kind of hard to get them in there. But we sure need those plant workers to get back to work. The thing of it is, they have a specific know-how on the particular jobs that they do, and it's hard to find skilled labor to come in and pick up right where they left off. And by the time you get them trained and up going again without anybody to train them, we're likely to be out of this crisis or close to the end of it. But look at your fat cattle market, your cash market. On Wednesday we had a little bit more trade, and like I said, your packers are trying to save face a little bit. They're giving more than they would really have to, but it's still obscene what they're doing on the other end on the dressed beef market. But Iowa had confirmed sales on Wednesday of about 800 head there. They had only a dressed market there of 148, and that's picked up, or FOB, so that would be about the same as what we've seen so far this week at $150. Nebraska, 4,800 head confirmed there, and 10,200 head for the week, so they have snuck along and traded some cattle with live sales from 94.5 to 95 and dress sales at 150. We also had a little bit of trickle trade in your southern plains. Kansas, about 500 head confirmed there, and they had live sales ranging $10 from $90 to $100 or $1 a pound there. Texas about 400 head from 95 and a half to $1. But you know, these box beef cutout values, it's unbelievable. Each day at noon and each day at the end of the trade, you look at it and what these packers are just willing to do. I mean, the gall is just unbelievable that they're doing, and they just keep raising these levels, these box beef cutout values. And it's not a bid on market. It's one thing when you run a fancy set of steers into a ring and guys bid on them until they bring an obscene price. But it's another thing when the packers have enough gall to continue raising, and they set the price on these particular cuts on these box beef cutout values, and then you put those all together and it comes out with your total composite price there. But those products, those different cuts, and they're all numbered, they're not bid on, they're not bid up to raise that. Your packers set them up there, and your retailers are just forced to pay that price if they want some product to fill their shelves. And then to boot, your packers come out earlier in the week with an ad campaign that kind of spurred on a little bit more panic buying, so they're getting to enjoy it on the other end. But choice cuts on Wednesday afternoon, $357.38, up $26.56. It's just unbelievable. Your selects, $339.91, up $19.03, and you can tell these packers are really worried about this DOJ investigation and afraid of the big fines that they're going to have to pay. Yeah, right. Choice select spread almost $17.50, and getting a decent movement at these inflated prices of 105 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. But you know, I was talking with one of my favorite contacts there today, and we were trying to describe what this box beef deal is each and every day that it comes out, and you can't describe it. It's unbelievable. It's volcanic. It's obscene. It's criminal. It's unbelievable what they're doing here. And he was saying that you know, these packers, you know, if they wanted to kind of be half straight up, and if the heat gets on them pretty big from this DOJ investigation that supposedly is going on out there, they could come in and say, you know what, guys, we're making too much money. And you say, too much money, that's like too much fun. Well, yeah, but when you're in an industry that's supposed to be working hand in hand, and you know, these packers, they rely on these cattle feeders, and the cattle feeders rely on the backgrounders, and the backgrounders rely on the cow-calf producers. But when you're cutting everybody else's throat, and you're doing it right there in plain and broad daylight, you know, you got your hand in the cookie jar, you could come out and say, kind of like they did here a couple of months ago, when this initially happened, when this coronavirus first come out, and they tried to come in and manipulate the market. They came back and said, well, you know, we're going to bump you guys a little bit. If they wanted to do that, you know, here's a good way they could do it. Your packers could come in and say, you know what, since this coronavirus deal started, we're going to go back and everybody that we bought cattle off of, we're going to bump you about $300 a head. You know, that still wouldn't be a fourth of the clear profit that they've made. But, you know, we're going to bump you guys $300 a head, let you live, you cattle feeders, and we're going to let you kind of get in there and bid up some of these feeder cattle that the guys have been holding forever. And then those guys will be able to come back and have a little more confidence in this whole game we call commercial cattle feeding and production. And they would be able to come back and give a decent price for the calves. But, you know, bump them $300 a head. We have heard that one of your major packers announced that they are going to be giving double bonuses. They gave them a bonus, these frontline workers, for showing up to work. We still can't get them all to work. But, you know, they're doubling the bonuses for your frontline workers. They're not even chipping away at these huge profits they're making, but they could sure do that. You know, and maybe even give a little bone to some of your cattle production guys on down the line, down to your cow-calf guys. You know, when you're making millions and millions of dollars in each plant every single day, you'd think you could throw the guys that allow you to do that a bone once in a while. But don't bet on it. But Let's talk about your slaughter so far for the week through Wednesday. Just 221,000. That's 34,000 less than the disappointing week last week, and 141,000 less than the same week a year ago. There's not hardly a plant out there that's not pulled down to some degree. Some of your cow plants may be running pretty good, but it's just amazing. All the employees that Walmart has, that Sam's Club, that Costco, that all these big employers, the Amazon in their big warehouses where they do the shipping. There's lots of employees in there, and they're able to show up to work. Why can your plant workers not show up to work? And you say, well, we've had outbreaks of coronavirus. There's been outbreaks everywhere in every walk of life. But any place you come in there and start testing every single employee in there, you're going to find a lot of outbreaks. I guarantee you, any of these big grocery store outlets that you went in there and tested every single employee, you would think it was a hot spot when you got done. And it's just unbelievable that everybody is taking advantage. And once again, like always, your cattle producers are left holding the bag. People are going to lose their livelihoods. They're going to lose their ranches. They're going to lose their legacy of their families over this deal. And it's really, really sickening to watch. And it's even costing our government a lot of money trying to prop these producers up, because they know if the whole deal falls flat, we're really going to be in a bind. But you know what happens once we get our packing houses back up to speed? These box beef cutout values are going to have to drop. I mean, like a rock. And what's that going to do to our prices down the line? You know, when they've been used to doubling their money and more, making $1,600 a head, how are they going to have to go back to an honest profit of $250, $300 a head? They're probably not going to be too excited to do that, and then they're going to want to really drop the market on your finished cattle. And I tell you what, we've just, even though we're starting to loosen up, we're starting to go back to work, we're starting to get some small businesses back. There's even places where they're opening restaurants and things like that. But I tell you what, we are far, far from getting out of the woods or even into the smaller trees on this commercial cattle deal. But let's look at your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index on DV auction late on Wednesday, 119.42, down 39 cents. And you think, well, down again. But I tell you what, we had some monster sales from some high volume auction markets there. And to only be down 39 cents on the day from Tuesday's close, that's not the worst, guys. Let's look at some of your big sales. Your biggest sale, OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, 10,300 head on offer for Tuesday and Wednesday sales there. And a lot of cattle coming off wheat, and a lot of heavy cattle coming off wheat. And you think we didn't have a lot of cattle turned out on wheat? I would say that there was more cattle turned out on graze out wheat than there was on traditional grazing wheat, because it was dry there back in the winter when you have your normal turnout for traditional grazing of wheat. But they got some moisture there late in the winter, brought on some really, really good lush pastures of graze out wheat. Most guys are planted beardless now. You can hold those cattle quite a while. There's still a lot of them out there, but a lot of cattle coming off wheat coming into El Reno, Oklahoma, and you can tell that by looking at the weights. Look at this automated report from Cattle Market Central here by DV Auction. The market was near steady. The federal state market report was once again screwed up and not available there on Wednesday evening, and they'll have to fix that again. And man, have they dropped the ball on the time when people are really wanting to look at these markets. But OKC West, you see this automated report, and like I said, most of your best tested weights were near steady, but look at these big offerings in your best tested weights of yearling feeder steers. 1,573 head of the 7-weight steers, averaged 757 at 119.92. 2,074 head of the 8-weight feeder steers in El Reno, averaged 854 at 109.82. And your 9-weight steers, 1,837 head of 9-weight steers, mostly all off graze out wheat, averaged 937 at 104.09. Winter Livestock, Dodge City, Kansas had a good run for them too. 4,000 head there. Your feeder steers $1 to $2 lower. Feeder heifers about steady. Your calves pretty much steady in a light test there of what they had on offer for your lighter weight calves. But again, a decent sale, kind of holding things together a little bit middle part of this week. Let's look at some individual quotes on Wednesday. Good premium sale up there in the heart of the Midwest. Bloomfield, Iowa, the Schooley family up there sold a load, 55 head of 893-pound steers, almost 900 pounds at 119 and a quarter. Let's go down into western Oklahoma. Cherokee Sales Company, Jared Herman and Company there in Cherokee, Oklahoma. 2 loads of 811-pound steers bring 125 and a quarter. And then another thing that makes you feel like things are fairly normal, albeit at much lower price levels. Bassett, Nebraska, up there in the Sand Hills of Bassett, they had another barn burner of a sale for the way things are. Had 4,200 head there. Look at this automated report off DV Auction there, and you can see how high these price levels are. I tried to pick out some stick out sales in several different weight groups, and there was too many of them. That's all I would have got done on this report. But let's look at them as a whole. Look at the 5-weight steers, over 500 head there, average 564 at 164.40. 844 head of the 6-weight steers in Bassett, average 644, 152.51. Little over 300 head of the 7-weight big steer calves, average 735, 138.84. And 356 head of 8-weight feeder steers in Bassett, Nebraska, averaged 846 at 124.72. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.